February 25th, 2023 morning session of the Portland City Council. Good morning, Keelan. Please call the roll.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Commissioners. Rubio.
Here.
Ryan.
Here.
Gonzalez.
Here.
Knaps.
Here.
Wheeler.
Here. And now we'll hear from legal counsel on the rules of order and decorum. Good morning.
Morning, Mayor. Welcome to the Portland City Council. City Council is holding hybrid public meetings with in-person attendance in addition to electronic attendance. If you wish to testify before council in person or virtually, you must sign up in advance by visiting the council agenda on the council clerk's webpage at www.portland.gov/council/agenda. You may sign up for communications to briefly speak about any subject. You may also sign up for public testimony on resolutions, reports, or the first readings of ordinances. Written testimony may be submitted at cctestimony@portlandoregon.gov. Your testimony should address the matter being considered at the time. When testifying, please state your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. Please disclose if you are a lobbyist. If you are representing an organization, please identify it. For testifiers joining virtually, please unmute yourself once the council clerk calls your name. The presiding officer preserves order and decorum during city council meetings so everyone can feel welcome, comfortable, respected, and safe. The presiding officer determines the length of testimony. Individuals generally have 3 minutes to testify unless otherwise stated. A timer will indicate when your time is done. Disruptive conduct such as shouting, refusing to conclude your testimony when your time is up, or interrupting others' testimony or council deliberations will not be allowed. If there are disruptions, a warning will be given that further disruption may result in the person being ejected for the remainder of the meeting. After being ejected, a person who fails to leave the meeting is subject to arrest for trespass. Additionally, council may take a short recess and reconvene virtually.
Excellent. Thank you. First up is communications, item number 67, please.
Request of Alexis Moyer to address council regarding participatory budgeting charter amendment.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning. I am a little sick, so please bear with me. So I am Alexis Moyer. I'm 24 years old, raised in Southeast Portland. I grew up participating in advocacy across the state and local government since I was 14 years old. I'm here today to speak in support of the proposed participatory budgeting charter amendment. Mayor Wheeler, seeing you today reminds me of my service on the Multnomah Youth Commission. It is an interesting experience to be present, as during my advocacy, I was worried about the city funding bus passes so my friends and I could make it to school and work. When I went through homelessness, addiction, domestic violence, discrimination, and also abuse by Portland police officers, it wasn't possible for me to be in community or positions of advocacy. My experience is that participation in state and local government is a continuous fight to access this process and to be heard by public officials. The city holds meetings and different avenues of communication for elected officials to get input from residents. But really, I don't feel that people most impacted by the decisions you make are truly heard. Participatory budgeting redistributes decision-making power and responsibility in the hands of those continually disregarded or overlooked. I wouldn't be testifying today if I hadn't had a chance to experience a participatory budgeting process this last June. It has given me the opportunity to engage with other youth and young adults across East Portland and beyond. Our project, the Youth Voice, Youth Vote Participatory Budgeting Project, is allocating $500,000 for COVID relief and recovery by and for youth east of I-205. The project was designed and is being implemented by East Portland youth. Your decision to refer the participatory budgeting charter amendment to voters will show that you understand that your core responsibility is to value the participation of all in the decisions that affect our lives, that you value the work that community members have dedicated their lives to. I asked Mayor Wheeler, this is your chance to fulfill your 2016 pledge to bring participatory budgeting to Portland and to help create an equitable, just Portland, one that makes it possible for us all to be a part of the city that we love. And I thank you for your time today.
Thank you. And Alexis, I have just a couple of comments. First of all, it's good to see you again and get well. It's going around, so I hope you recover. I know a number of people on my staff have also been waylaid by the cold you've got. So first of all, best in your recovery. Second of all, with regard to participatory budgeting, I do think participatory budgeting is a good idea in certain circumstances. We have used it from time to time over the course of my administration. What is being put before the City Council is a comprehensive overall participatory budgeting strategy, and I intend to look at it carefully. And just to be 100% transparent, I also intend to weigh it with the other significant changes that we are currently making in city government. There is a major effort underway to transition our commission form of government to a new form of government, and that is an all hands on deck effort. And I will be honest with you, I am concerned about the amount of change, the pace of change, and the bandwidth that the leadership of this city has to be able to do all of these things effectively by January 1st, 2025. So I just want you to be aware, this is not a shoe-in for me. This is something I want to consider carefully and weigh not only the merits of the proposal, but also the ability to implement it effectively and as intended by those who have drafted this by the deadline required. Next of all, I just want to reiterate something I think you and I have discussed previously. Listening to and agreeing with are two separate things, and I'm often accused of not listening because I don't agree with somebody's position. And I want to assure you that I do have many inroads for community input. I listen carefully. Often I change my mind. Sometimes I don't, but that shouldn't be interpreted as not listening. And finally, I just want people to remember that this is a representative form of government. There are many ways that people can actually join us here on this dais with the new form of government coming up. The 2024 election cycle will have 12 seats. All seats will be open for the City Council. Additionally, the mayor will be up for election. And I would encourage your participation. You've had a strong voice in this community. You have led from an early age, and that's something I would encourage you to consider. So those are just my random thoughts first thing this morning, but it's good to see you, Alexis. Thank you. Next
Thank you,
individual,
Mayor
please.
Wheeler.
You bet. Item 68, please.
Request of Dusty McCord to address council regarding occupants in abandoned bar.
Welcome.
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, and we can see you too.
Okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Dusty, and I am the Vice Chair of the Arbor Lodge Neighborhood Association. And I'm here to ask the council to expedite the cleanup and removal of the dangerous individuals who have taken over the vacant tavern at 7421 North Denver Avenue. The occupation of this space has lasted for more than a year now, and we need your help. Last year, the residents of Arbor Lodge supported the creation of a homeless shelter in our neighborhood. And we were assured by the organization running the facility and the city that no camping would be allowed near the shelter. But shortly after the facility opened, we had huge encampments for blocks along Lombard. And in short order, we had a massive issue with squatters in multiple locations. The neighbors fought off most of the squatters, but the individuals in the old tavern, which is across the street from the homeless shelter, proved to be dangerous towards everyone, even our neighbors in the shelter. As the situation has escalated, the owners of the property and the police have been completely unresponsive. Last week, we had the fire department on site twice, escalating our fears that their nightly fires could spread to our homes. Neighbors have been physically assaulted and had guns shoved in their faces. Neighbors witnessed clearly stolen cars and bicycles stripped, prostitution out of vehicles in front of their homes near the site. The squatters are chopping down trees in the neighborhood to burn them along with heaps of trash. The piles of filth collecting on the property have fostered a huge colony of rats and cockroaches that are destroying the nearby homes and cars. The current situation is nothing short of a disaster that has been traumatizing our neighborhood for over a year. We are desperate for help. We fear for our safety, our well-being of our families, our homes, and the individuals on the property. If the city is unable to address this situation, how can residents of Portland be assured that this exact problem won't happen outside of the proposed city-sanctioned camping sites? So please, help further the effort to make our streets safer by addressing the tavern on 7421 North Denver Avenue. There's so much that I cannot share in my 3-minute allotment. I would love for you to join our next neighborhood association meeting to hear directly from the community. If you have any questions, please reach out.
Dusty, don't go anywhere, because I know we have a lot to say on this subject. We'll start with Commissioner Maps, then we'll go to Commissioner Ryan.
Mr. Mayor, can I defer to
Commissioner Ryan, why don't you go ahead and go? Oh, Rubio, I'm sorry. Yes, Commissioner Rubio. You bet. Absolutely. Rubio, Maps, then Ryan.
Thank you, Commissioner Maps.
Then anybody
and
else.
Mayor and Ryan. Dusty, I just want to say thanks for showing up today and sharing your experience. I just was assigned BDS as in my portfolio, and I just want you to know that we're digging in to see if there's a role here, a nexus with BDS. My staff, Jimmy Radasta, has been looking into this over the past couple days, and we have your contact information, so we will circle back with what we find. I know other people have some comments to say as well.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Commissioner Maps.
Yeah, Dusty, number one, thank you for showing up to testify today. Number two, I am so sorry that the situation evolved in the way it has evolved. My office is aware of this particular situation, and I know that a number of city bureaus have been engaged with this. I want to make sure that someone from City Hall connects with you. If Commissioner Rubio's office wants to be the lead on this, that's great. We can work together. We'll make sure that someone from either Rubio's office or my office reaches out and at least briefs you on what has been done and what's likely to come next.
Thank you, Commissioner Maps. Commissioner Ryan.
Yes, Dusty, thanks for being here. I'm well aware of the situation. I want you to know that I've placed numerous calls to the county who opened and operates the shelter. I know you said city, and that's okay, but they do oversee that space. And so it's a way of just informing you that taking your testimony to the county about the specific shelter would be very smart in terms of good government. And about the site, the Red Barn, is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad that Commissioner Rubio, you're on that. That has been a dialogue as well. But I will say that the opening of that shelter was pretty quick. The Good Neighbor Agreement has to be good, and that means that the providers who oversee the sites are part of that Good Neighbor Agreement. And those contracts are done by the county's Office of Homeless Services. And so again, I think we just have to remember there's shared responsibility here. Thank you.
Commissioner Gonzalez also has a comment.
Dusty, thanks so much for testifying. I think the story of Arbor Lodge has been one of the big disappointments in the story of a community welcoming a shelter, supporting a shelter in their neighborhood, and no good deed going unpunished. And so well aware of your community's support and commitment to this shelter out of the gate. And I just have to say, collectively, we got to do better in protecting neighborhoods that are supportive of these type of shelters. So thank you for your neighborhood's patience. Thank you for testifying here. And all I can say right now is we got to do better for you.
Yeah, good, and I'll chime in. Dusty, this is probably taking longer than you imagined, but we want you to understand we find this situation completely unacceptable, as do you and your fellow neighbors. And I won't belabor what my colleagues have already committed to, except to say I join them in that commitment. And I also just want to differentiate this from what we are proposing with our service hubs, the areas that will bring people closer to the services they need. We are in the RFP process for a service provider. The RFP is extremely clear on the point provider opportunities that come with some risk if we don't do our part to ensure that the surrounding areas are kept clear. And that's my commitment to you, that as we roll out these expanded service hubs as part of the 5 resolutions passed by the City Council, that we will ensure that we maintain the integrity of that agreement within a 1,000-foot area as required by the RFP. So just want to let you know, this is not that.
Okay, I
Thanks.
appreciate that.
Yeah, it's good to see you again, Dusty. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
bet.
Thank you. Okay.
Next individual, please. Item number 69.
Request of Barrett Lewis to address council regarding drug ring operation on Southeast Stark Street.
Barrett, good morning.
Barrett was going to join us in person. Is Barrett here?
Barrett?
I don't think they're here.
Nope. All right, very good. Next individual, please. Item 70.
Request of Susan Freed to address council regarding light nuisance. They canceled their request.
All right, let's see, 9:46, good. Let's go to, well, let's do the consent agenda first. Have any items been pulled from the consent agenda?
No items have been pulled.
Please call the roll.
Rubio.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Maps.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. Consent agenda is adopted. First time certain item, please. Item number 71, this is a second reading.
Amend the comprehensive plan and the planning and zoning code to create the planning commission and dissolve the planning and sustainability commission.
Colleagues, this is a second reading of a non-emergency ordinance. We have already had a presentation. We have taken public testimony. For the record, I was at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, did not hear in person the first reading. I have reviewed the record, and I'm prepared to vote today. Is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Rubio.
Once again, I'd like to thank BPS staff, Patricia Diefendorfer, Sandra Wood, and also our then consultant, Julie Oken, for their tireless work on this project and amendment. And thank you to PSC members for all the time and input and all the heavy policy lifting. Just to recap quickly from last week, even though we'll be creating a new Climate and Sustainability Commission, hopefully by year's end, the new Planning Commission will continue to take an intersectional approach to its work informed by climate and equity. So the work ahead on both fronts is significant, and we know that Portlanders are ready to engage. I vote aye.
Ryan.
Yeah, thank you so much, BPS staff and the subgroup of current Planning and Sustainability Commission members for diving into this important system change. And kudos to you, Commissioner Rubio, and your team for leading a thoughtful process that results in these code amendments. I really do believe we're doing the right thing with these two issues. Planning sustainability, climate crisis also deserves focus, and I know that's coming up, and this will empower the city's planning commission to better focus on planning and land use issues while also advancing the goals of our city's comprehensive plan. I can't think of a more important time for our city to dream big and have a focused planning commission. It's needed to implement those dreams so we can once again be a city of destination for those who are in awe of our cutting-edge accomplishments, not the one that's been called out by many by resting on laurels of big dreams of past decades. I look forward to the formation of the new Planning Commission and the not too far future, the creation of a citywide sustainability climate commission so the critical life-preserving work can also receive the focus it deserves. Together, these two commissions will build the nation's most prosperous green economy. This is a step in the right direction. I vote aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Maps.
I want to thank Commissioner Rubio and the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability for bringing this item forward. I'm confident this reform will support the city's cutting-edge work on land use planning and will enhance our efforts to do groundbreaking work around sustainability issues. For these reasons and more, I vote aye.
Wheeler.
I would like to thank Commissioner Rubio for taking the leadership on this. This is one of those issues that could be potentially very thorny and very challenging. And Commissioner, you took charge of this and I think did an exceptional job working with the BPS staff as well as the commission members. Why people since the get-go. And I think we can all agree that the intention behind combining planning and sustainability was very good. And there's a lot of logical reasons why people made that decision when they made it. However, operationally, it's been challenged since the get-go. And I believe this decision will enable us to do a much better job focusing on the finer points of planning, as well as fulfilling our commitment around addressing our climate action goals. I think this is the right way to go, and I really appreciate everybody's effort to make this happen. I vote aye. The ordinance is adopted. Next item, please, will be on the regular agenda, item number 77.
Appoint an independent district commission for terms to expire September 30, 2023.
Colleagues, appointing the Independent District Commission marks an important milestone in the implementation of the city charter reform passed by the voters last November. As prescribed by charter, the IDC is tasked with a very narrow work plan that must be completed by September 1st of this year. They must hold a citywide public hearing early in the districting process to engage Portlanders on district criteria, hold 2 public hearings in each proposed district before voting to adopt a district plan, and ensure district maps are consistent with state and federal laws and criteria. Moving forward, Portlanders will be tasked with electing 3 city council representatives per district, creating a city council with 12 members. Today, I'm seeking council approval of 13 members to serve on the Independent District Commission, now called the IDC. In addition, I'm recommending the appointment of 3 alternate members and 3 reserve alternate members, which will ensure that the IDC is able to complete its work within a very short timeline as prescribed by charter without any delays. We received 279 applications for this 13-person commission. I want to thank all of the Portlanders who applied to serve their city. It made for a very difficult selection process. I also want to thank the charter transition team, including Diana and Sophia, who are with us today, as well as my staff, my council colleagues, for working with my office to form what I think is a really impressive list of appointees. With that, I'll turn this over to project coordinator Diana Shiplett from the Charter Transition Team in the Office of Management and Finance to introduce our IDC nominees to the Independent District Commission. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm honored to be here today. My name is Diana Shiplett. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a coordinator with the Charter Transition Team housed in the Office of Management and Finance. Unfortunately today, my colleague Sophia Alvarez Castro, who is the project manager for the Independent District Commission, is unable to attend due to a family emergency. I'll do my best to fill her shoes. As Mayor Wheeler stated, today marks an important step in the implementation of the amended city charter, the appointment of our first Independent District Commission. Before we begin, I want to thank the many people who helped to bring the recommended commission appointees to you today. The process would not have been possible without the assistance of the Office of Community and Civic Life, the City Attorney's Office, City Council staff, particularly Haley Blonsley in the Mayor's office, as well as my coworkers on the transition team. Thank you all for your collaboration. Next slide, please. The commission is made up of 13 Portland residents who are tasked with preparing and adopting the district plan. Independent District Commission, as the name suggests, is a fully independent body authorized, the name suggests, is a body for the city of Portland. District plan September 1st of 2023. The plan will be adopted in 20. If at least 9 commission will be the final plan. Votes, the district commission is unable to majority to city council for consideration. 9 applications to challenging position of having 5 we have spots. Everyone who applied to serve. I know everyone though that serving on the only engage in responding to so that broad public also vital. Electing the 13 commissioners viewing and scoring each area. experience that will help the fill its work process or voter education local government. 2, an experience a demonstrated ability to support efforts of the or a connection to a variety of community, such as philanthropic community. All Portlanders, it is important to connect. This score members proposed for appointment today. Of 13 members.
Great slide here.
Ooh. There we go. Thank you.
There.
2 reasons. Short timeline. Requires September 1st of this year. Input, discussion, view. Having alternates already to fill will not be delayed. Approves, affects and connection to Portland's influence either how the community or writing Portland on a map. In general summary, reside in Northeast Portland. I reside in Northeast Portland. Next slide. Apologies. And we will also have next slide. Policy and government for the coalition of advocate committees for Office of Bureau of Transportation and Prosperity. He is a member of the task force as well as Hazelwood Public. David Michael Siegel is a retired worked for Portland. He has served as both president and as a planning associate. Next slide. Siegel is transportation, regional education. Is a criminal defense immigrant lawyers. Slide. Helps provide support to homeless street program. Previously, strategies. Next slide. Seller 503 on the citizens census redistricting effort. Slide. Wise was a Portland coordinator and ACLU of Oregon. Next slide. University and an award-winning next slide. administrator for the housing advocacy committee, such as the law section or board. Lumley is the CEO of Youth and Family. He served as the executive director for Intertribal Housing Council. He's the coalition. Sharon began her career with KVO Advertising and Public. She now devotes her organizations such as City Club Inc. and the Oregon Entrepreneur. Steve Fleischman is the owner. He has also worked for Education North Portland and NWEA. Member nominees. As a reminder, in all. Next slide. Lloyd Eco District. One of two Kamala Harris campaign. Variety of Council Pacific Northwest. My women. Third, attended PSU as an RN's higher education while colleges, as well as the Oregon schools. Shora Visog and an innovation consultancy. Mobility. He has served Becker Foundation, University Advisory Council. He's also a next slide. Reserve alternates will not owns the real estate development group. He is community organizer, Council 75. She Oregon Bureau of Labor and Industry. Is an attorney, specialized as an assistant attorney general, Japanese American citizens in museum, Pacific American law. The transition team would be prouder to engage on this project. District commissioners, criteria for plan development, community success of the districting process. Independent public hearings, and the first in late determine any districting criteria already been the required public of means. Portland / District Commission work, sign up for an email newsletter or submit public work of the commission. To partnering with you and your offices process for the upcoming work of the commission.
And any other comments or questions? Commissioner Ryan, thank you.
First of all, thank you, Diana. You did a great job for Sophia. She'll be proud of you, I'm sure. My question is, we just finished a very exhaustive process and thank you to the Charter Review Committee members who put in countless hours. That said, it just finished, and I always think the best practices are to review what worked, what didn't. And so what are some of the learnings that we have from the most recent Charter Review Commission that's disbanding as we transition to this? What can we take from that and implement to make sure that we keep improving?
I think the biggest takeaway from the Charter Commission work was our public engagement. I think we did a more extensive public engagement process than any commission has done in recent memory. And luckily, the team members who were part of that public engagement are now the leads in the Independent District Commission. And so they will be able to take that on and continue that work in engaging the public in the work and getting the public involved.
Let's stay with this theme. So, and I'm well aware when people don't agree that they think there wasn't enough engagement. That said, there were a lot of people who voiced concerns about how there were decisions made and then it was really quick at the end. And so they didn't think there was actually ample engagement and that their voices were not heard and the supermajority was already locked into what they were going to vote on and they weren't really taking feedback from the public. So I'm sure you heard that as well. We all got these emails. So I'd like you to address that point in particular.
I will agree that the decisions always feel rushed. We did, in the lead up to it, take a year and a half worth of public input in order to come to those decisions. If we had had all the time in the world, I think that things would have, public engagement would have been even more robust. And unfortunately, with the Charter Commission having a limited time frame, and also this commission having a limited time frame, that does pose some challenges. We're hoping that as part of this, we're gonna open the engagement broader earlier. Unfortunately, I'm not the project manager, so I'm not part of all of that. I'm stepping in her stead at the moment. So
No, I think the front end is always very important. I think what I heard consistently from people with different points of view is that once the decisions were made, it felt really rushed. So they didn't have a chance to be participating in what would have been the final vote. And so I think that's the advice I want to give you, give more time after they make their decisions to have community engagement.
That's well taken. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have one more question.
Commissioner Mapps.
This is going to be this may be an unfair question. Has the staff who's working on this or the city attorney thought about how the maps that we're setting up intersect with the Voting Rights Act, specifically Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act?
Why don't you answer it, and then can we pause and see if we can fix the closed captioning system? Go ahead, sorry.
I actually do not know the answer to that, and I'll have to get back to you.
Okay.
Okay, maybe let me formally request that. I think this is an interesting and underexplored aspect of charter reform. I'm a little bit behind on the current status of the Voting Rights Act and Section 2 in particular. I think it might be very relevant here. And we're also setting up a really novel electoral system, which I don't think has been tested in the context of the Voting Rights Act with this. So I think I hope that we can explore it, and I don't know if I ask that, if I make this request to you, or if I make this request to the attorneys, but I'd love to see a memo on that.
Sure, we will get that to you. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Keelan, any luck with closed captioning?
Yeah, we probably should take a short recess and
Okay.
troubleshoot.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we take a 5-minute recess, and we'll see if the folks upstairs can fix that. We'll reconvene in about 5 minutes. We are in recess. back into session. Are you going to put up that slide? All right, so those watching, thank you for your patience on this. We've been troubleshooting an issue with our closed captioning system. There's a number of people who rely on that closed captioning system to follow what we're doing here on the City Council. And I'm sorry that there is clearly an issue with it. But as the slide says, closed captioning is unavailable for the rest of this meeting. The meeting's video will be updated to include closed captions and posted to YouTube at the usual place, www.portland.gov/council/agenda. And that should be up hopefully later this afternoon. Keelan?
Yep, we're going to work on it.
All right, great. And thank you, Diana, for your patience. Where we left off was in the middle of item number 77. This is the Independent District Commission, and Diana was answering questions. I don't know if anybody else had any more questions at this point. And if not, I'd entertain a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
Commissioner Maps move acceptance of the report. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Rubio seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Rubio.
I want to thank you for your overview today and for pinch hitting. Thank you for being here. I also just want to say how impressive this group is, and I'm really, really grateful for their willingness to serve. It's really important work at an important time for the city, and they'll be quite literally making history as they begin the process to create these districts in our new form of government. And their diversity by sector and their lived experience, all of that's just such great assets. So I'm very thankful and want to thank the new appointees for stepping up to serve our city. I vote aye.
Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Diana, again for this report, and also to all the people who applied. That was actually a big number. And it must have been a tough decision, and thanks to the mayor's office for driving this process and also setting up alternatives, because it's inevitable that unfortunately people might not be able to finish it. It's going to be quite a sprint. And so thank you to the impressive people who will be serving. My advice that I was getting at in my questions is to really build more authentic feedback time process for the community to weigh in after the final draft proposal is made public to the community, to improve on that practice that was widely criticized by the public from the most recent work of the Charter Review Commission. Knowing that we'll improve on that practice, and definitely in support of all these people leaning in to serve, I vote aye.
Thank you. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Maps.
I want to thank staff for that presentation, and I also want to express my appreciation to these volunteers for agreeing to serve on this important committee. I vote aye.
Wheeler.
Well, thanks again to Diana and the rest of the Charter Transition team for your work on this important and historic process. I'd like to thank my staff as well as my fellow commissioners and their staffs for ensuring that we are representing diverse backgrounds and perspectives from all parts of our amazing city, as well as making sure that we actually have the people with the background and lived experience and the knowledge to be able to do what's going to ultimately be fairly complicated work. Most importantly, I want to thank the commission members for their willingness to serve. As my colleagues said, we had a tremendous pool of applicants. I'm sorry we couldn't pick everybody who applied. And I just want to say how much I appreciate the time, the talent, and the energy of those who are serving either as commissioners or alternates to this commission. And we will be watching your work very closely, as it is historic and important work. So thank you for your service. I vote aye, and the report is accepted, and the appointments are approved. Thank you. Item number 78, please. This is also a report.
Accept bid of Phase-On Construction Incorporated for the Washington Park South Entry Improvement Project for $7,665,763.
Colleagues, this is a project you're well aware of as part of the Portland Parks and Recreation's Washington Park South Entry Improvement Project. This report authorizes work to enhance the entry, better access for pedestrians and cyclists, increase sidewalks and signage, and provide a functional stormwater garden in the park. And of course, as always, we have Chief Procurement Officer Biko Taylor here to walk us through the report. Welcome, Biko. Good morning, and thanks for your patience.
Good morning, Mayor Wheeler. Good morning, members of council. For the record, I'm Biko Taylor, the Chief Procurement Officer. City Council approved ordinance number 191019 on October 5th, 2022 for this project. The engineering estimate for this project was $5.2 million. Procurement Services issued the invitation to bid on October 26th, 2022, with a due date of December 13th, 2022. And in total, we received 4 bids for the project. Faison Construction Incorporated was the low bidder on the project and is the recommended awardee by the Parks team. Their bid came in at $7.665 million, which is approximately 49% above the engineering estimate. On behalf of Parks, I'm going to provide some remarks on why the bid came in high. So despite having completed a professional cost estimate by the engineering team at Parks, this project's bid came in higher than estimated. We believe this is a primary result of a lack of available labor in the construction trades, specifically at the subcontract level, volatility in the supply chain that persists, and also construction escalation costs. The Parks team conducted a study between 2018 and to present and has been tracking unusually high construction escalation costs across multiple industry indexes, and they continue to adjust their estimates in accordance with the current market escalations. Specific to this project, the degree of difficulty and variation in the work from ODOT regulatory requirements, combined with the need to find specialty architectural wall craftsmen, created an additional level of difficulty in the bidding process. Finally, the Parks engineering team have analyzed a collection of bids and found them to be competitive within a reasonable range of costs. The Bureau finds the lowest responsive bid within budget for this project. We'll move on to co-bid numbers. The city's standard 20% aspirational goal applies to this solicitation. And here's the following breakdown of utilization that was submitted by Faison Incorporated. 33.6% of the project will be completed by Faison Construction. 24.83% of the project will be completed by certified co-bid subcontractors, and roughly 42% will be completed by 9 certified contractors. For my part, I'd like to make a comment that Faison is an African-American owned firm, and total on this project, 41% of this project will be executed by African-American owned firms. And we also want to acknowledge that 15% of this project will be completed by women-owned firms. So from a co-bid perspective and also a minority empowerment perspective, this is a great contract for us, and we're proud of Parks for reaching out and their team for going through extra effort to provide this opportunity. Faison Construction Incorporated is located in Portland, Oregon, and is a state co-bid certified DBE MBE contractor, and it's African-American male-owned. They have a current City of Portland business tax registration and in full compliance with all of the city's contracting requirements. Funding for this project is included in the 5-year capital budget beginning in fiscal year 23 through Parks System Development Charges, the Washington Parking Meter Fund, the ADA Transition Plan, and a BES % for Green Grant, and as well as ODOT. If there are any questions about this process, I'll be happy to answer them now.
Thanks, Biko. Colleagues, any questions for Director Taylor? Do we have public testimony on this item?
No one signed up.
Very good. I'll entertain a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
Commissioner Ryan moves. Can I get a second?
Second.
Commissioner Gonzalez, seconds. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Rubio.
I want to thank Director Taylor and his team, and also the great work of Parks Bureau team on this project. I'm very excited to see it move forward. I vote aye.
Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Director Taylor. That was a superb presentation. You covered everything that I would have wanted to ask you about, so thanks. Just a little background, which Commissioner Rubio is well aware of. The Parks Bureau has really been focused on this for quite some time, and there was extensive engagement and outreach. More than 2,000 people actually participated and gave their opinions throughout this planning process. It's quite complex, as you know. Anyway, I'm excited to see the project move forward. Great news on who's actually doing the building, definitely meeting our goals and beyond. I'm very happy to vote aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Maps,
Yeah, I want to thank Director Taylor for that presentation and for your office's work on this. I'm also really heartened by these COVID numbers, really great work there. I appreciate your explanation for why the final bid is so much higher than our estimated bid. It's worth underscoring that because I think every bureau that is in the process of doing construction faces this problem, and it's sobering given the inflationary pressures that we face. But this is a good project, and this is an important project, and I am glad to vote aye.
Wheeler,
There's so many things I could say, but I'm not going to say them all. I'll just say this. This is a vision that's been around for a long time, and I honestly didn't know whether I would still be here by the time this vision was realized. And I'm really grateful to you. I'm grateful to the commissioner in charge, it was Commissioner Rubio previously, now it's Commissioner Ryan. I also want to thank all of the many volunteers in the community who pushed hard for this vision. And I don't believe this could have happened without the public voting for the Parks Levy to make the resources available. But this is great. And when it's done, I think people are going to be justifiably proud of it. So thank you for bringing this part to us, meeting all of the goals that this council has established around procurement. I agree with Commissioner Maps. Inflation is an unfortunate thief that comes in the night and steals from all pockets, whether it's your private back pocket or whether it's the government's pocket. The bottom line is there's no way that this could possibly be built under the original estimates because the cost of everything has gone up significantly since we first saw the financial profile of this project. But I think you've done the best you can, and I'm very grateful to support it. I vote aye, and the report is accepted. I can't wait. When does the work start?
I can't answer that, but I will get the answer. It's soon, yes.
I'm getting old by the minute. Good. Thanks, Pico.
Yes.
Appreciate it. All right, next up, please, item 79.
authorized contract with Thorn Run Partners, LLC for city representation at the Oregon State Legislature and with the Executive Office of the Oregon Governor not to exceed $360,000.
Colleagues, as further proof that we never give up, this emergency ordinance authorizes a contract with Thorn Run Partners, LLC to address an acute staffing shortage within our Office of Government Relations state team. This agreement will better ensure the City of Portland's legislative priorities, especially those related to homelessness and public safety, are advanced during the 2023 legislative session. Chief Procurement Officer Biko Taylor, as well as Deputy Director for the Office of Government Relations, Niels Tillstrom, are here to walk us through the ordinance. Welcome back, Biko. Welcome, Niels.
Good morning, Mayor. Thank you. So I'll keep this brief. On January 4th, 2023, City Council accepted the City of Portland's state legislative agenda. The purpose of this agenda was to advance the city's legislative priorities at the Oregon State Legislature. The Office of Government Relations team had a sudden and acute staffing shortage that resulted in an inadequate staffing levels for the upcoming legislative session. The representation in the Office of Government Relations, State Relations team is vital to the city's ongoing efforts to humanely and effectively address homelessness and improve public safety within the City of Portland, as well as to continue operations for various city bureaus. I'm not going to belabor the council with going through all points. I'm here to support my colleague. This was an emergency procurement that our team rallied and collaborated on, and I fully support this 2-year contract. These are remarkable circumstances, unprecedented times, And Niels, you could talk to more granular details around the acute staffing level challenges that you experienced and why there was a need to have emergency ordinance to I guess augment your staff.
Thank you very much. For the record, Niels Tillstrom, I am the Deputy Director in the Office of Government Relations. As Biko mentioned, we had, in the beginning of the year, suffered an acute and sudden staffing shortage that left the state relations program with only one member. In order to pivot quickly to get a program to support the city's agenda off the ground in Salem, we had to go out and find representation in the state lobby arena. And so we did that, and we have brought on, trying to bring on Thorn Run Partners. We'll have access to a team led by Dan Bates and Rachel Wiggins Emery. In the interim, we had also have brought on Director Sam Chase, who would be here today, except he's down in Salem, speaking with legislators. And we also have brought on our state relations manager, Evan Mitchell, who comes from the Multnomah County Drainage District, and to help supplement our team. So we are going down in Salem for this session and then the next session with a very strong team to support a very robust legislative agenda.
Very good. Colleagues, any questions? Any public testimony on this item?
No one signed up.
This is an emergency ordinance. Please call the roll.
Rubio.
I want to thank Mayor Wheeler and Director Taylor and Niels for responding so quickly to our needs at the state, and for bringing Dan Bates and Thorn Run team on. It's an excellent choice, and I'm confident that our legislative agenda is in really good hands. So I vote aye.
Ryan.
First of all, thank you, Niels, for stepping up over this past year. I really appreciate your leadership, and it was really noticed when we had the most recent legislative breakfast. And I know that in attendance, I did see Rachel Wiggins Emery, so that was awesome to see that continuity. I kind of knew this might be coming. I want to take a moment also to say how wonderful it is that we now have, you're now back to being official deputy, correct? And Sam Chase is in point as the new director. And I did meet with him yesterday, and it's just exciting to know that he has relationships in Salem, but also really good relationships with local entities as a former member of the Metro Council. It's just so important to our delegates at the federal level and state level to see local government figuring out how to tackle these really complex challenges that are on the ground. And for all the right reasons, they really are watching that, of course. Anyway, it's a really important session. We must align towards a North Star direction with action and not allow perfection and extreme special interests to hold us back from having the courage to move forward with compassionate action, especially in regards to our addiction and mental health crisis on our streets. I'm proud to be a part of a council that's united in that effort and working with the government relations team that will see that move forward. Thank you. I vote aye.
Gonzalez.
I just want to state my appreciation, echo my colleagues' statements. You brought in what looked like heavy hitters, both at the director level and with outside help. Is a crucially important legislative session at the state level for us in the city. So just appreciate you moving quickly and strengthening the team. Let's go get her done on homelessness and crime as much as we can this session. So I vote aye, and thank you.
Maps.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Well, this is a very important legislative session. And Niels, I want to echo Commissioner Ryan's gratitude. I don't think you necessarily wanted to step up and be the director for the entire office. That's not what you signed up for, but you really did an exceptional job. And I appreciate it. And I would concur that the proof of your success is the newfound close relationship we have with our Portland legislative delegation. And as you know, we've met several times as a delegation. We've gone through the finer points of our legislative agenda. We've heard from our colleagues in the legislature what they need from us in order to be successful. The governor with the new county chair. and you've been instrumental to all of that. And I was sort of chuckling at the language sudden and acute staffing shortage. We really got over a barrel on that one is probably how I would describe it, but you've recovered really well here by bringing in a great team. Now, the challenge for all of us is we're also going to have to be significant lobbyists this session. And the two items that my colleagues have raised are critically important to the well-being of this city. The first around public safety. The DPSST remains an impediment to us providing proper public safety support to our community. Specifically, we are not having a recruiting problem in the police bureau. We had over 1,500 applicants last year. We are bringing people on as quickly as we can. The police bureau will be asking for additional dollars to hire more people in the near future in the next budget. But the DPSST state training continues to be a significant pinch point. And I believe we read just a few days ago that there doesn't seem to be much appetite to increase the number of DPSST trainers, nor does there seem to be an immediate willingness to accept our proposal to do training. The agencies could take advantage of that opportunity. I want you to know I've had significant outreach used to support that. On homelessness, I will just say this. We need more housing. We need to bring services closer to the people who need those services through the service hubs that we have provided in designated areas. With 800 encampments over 146 square miles, we can't possibly provide adequate support, outreach, or follow-up to be able to make a meaningful difference in the lives of so many people who are struggling on our streets. And last but not least, we want to create an incentive for people to be able to seek services. And all of that's going to require support from our legislative body, and this team is well-versed on it. I saw you all meeting yesterday, and it was fun to meet with you briefly as you were scoping out the strategy for the session. We've got a great team, and you guys are playing an instrumental role. I want to thank you for it. Longer than I wanted, but MAPS made up for it by just voting yes. So I will vote aye, and the emergency ordinance is adopted. Thank you. Thank you. Next item, please. 80.
Amend contract with Facility Force Incorporated to increase amount by $1 million for additional licenses, functionality, and asset data for enterprise facilities and asset management system.
Thanks. This is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. This contract amendment will allow OMF Facility Services to purchase additional licenses to fund facility assessments, equipment inventories, and asset tagging at 23 different OMF locations for long-range facilities renewal planning.
Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt, this is a second reading.
Oh, so it is. Ignore everything I just said, although it's completely irrelevant. It's probably just additional information you don't need. Any further discussion? No. Please call the roll.
Rubio.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Maps.
I'm happy to see the city increase its investments in asset management. Here's why. In my time on this council, I've learned that delivering high-quality services to the people of Portland at a good price requires vigilant monitoring and maintenance of our city's assets. Now, at our next work session, this council will receive a report on the status of asset management systems in different city bureaus. Amongst other things, that report will show that OMF struggles with asset management. This ordinance will make OMF better at asset management, which is why I vote aye.
Wheeler.
100% supportive. I vote aye. The ordinance is adopted here on this second reading. Item number 81, also a second reading.
Amend contract with Universal Protection Service LP, DBA Allied Universal Security Services to increase amount by $661,173 for additional professional security officer services.
We have already had a presentation and taken testimony on this item. Is there any further business? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Rubio.
I just want to say I'm so appreciative of the work of our security team here at the city and pleased to support this contract amendment. I vote aye.
Ryan.
Yes, with deep appreciation for those serving in these roles, I vote aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Maps.
Colleagues, I'm happy to support this ordinance. This item is important because it will help keep Portland's public servants safe while they are on the job. And safety on the job is a major concern for this council and for our public servants. And it's increasingly been a problem. For example, environmental services staff tell me that they have seen a dramatic increase in vandalism and violence at our city's pump stations. The contract before us today will, amongst other things, bolster environmental services public safety team, which is amongst the reasons I will vote aye today.
Wheeler.
This was a topic of great conversation at the recent U.S. Conference of Mayors meeting in Washington, D.C. Across the board, we're seeing more violence directed towards, in particular, local government officials, but not exclusively. And I want to commend our security team here in City Hall. Particularly, I want to personally thank those who work with me on a variety of different issues. I really appreciate their service. I vote aye, and the ordinance is adopted. Colleagues, if you don't mind, I'm going to skip and just finish all the rest of the second readings and clear the remainder of the agenda and go back to 82. Item 83, also a second reading.
Amend Floating Structures Code to replace Floating Structures Board of Appeal with Building Code Board of Appeal, with Building Code Board of Appeal, and make other changes for clarity and consistency.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Rubio.
I want to thank Director Esau and
Ryan.
Commissioner Ryan.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention. But now I am. Where are we again?
83, second reading.
Floating structures.
The floating structures. Oh, yes, on the floating structures. I vote aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Maps. Aye. Wheeler.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. 84, second reading.
Authorize competitive solicitation and execution of price agreements for staff augmentation to support the Bureau of Environmental Services Capital Improvement Program with construction management, inspection, and program support services not to exceed $18 million over 5 years.
Call the roll, please.
Rubio.
aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Maps.
I want to thank staff at BES for their work on this ordinance. I vote aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. 85, second reading.
Sit together.
Declare a surplus city-owned property located at the corner of Southwest Council Crest Drive and Southwest McDonald Terrace, and authorize the Director of the Bureau of Environmental Services to proceed with a public sale of the property.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Rubio.
Thank you for bringing this item forward, Commissioner Maps, and for all the work that has led to this point. I also want to appreciate Commissioner Gonzalez for offered to work with the neighbors who hold diverse interests related to this property. Because it's been made clear that this property is not feasible for affordable housing, and because no other city bureau has had an interest in it, I vote aye.
Ryan.
Yes, I came into last week's meeting with really zero knowledge of this issue, and I do recall the 1996 floods and the devastation, so it was easy to really understand where the passion and the emotion was coming from. So thank you for those who testified and have been engaging with my office. We are listening, I'm listening. Ideally, in due time, we'll be voting to empower the neighborhood with a below-market sale of the property for their safety. This is a step in the right direction. With faith that the city will include the neighbors in the next steps. Thank you, Commissioner Gonzalez, for stepping up. And with faith that the neighbors will play well with one another, as Portland is a city of neighborhoods that do the right thing. I vote aye.
Gonzalez.
Yeah, but thank you to my colleagues for the call-outs there. We are putting the neighbors in touch with the real estate attorney, and Commissioner Mapps's office is assisting in helping them navigate all of this. So if previous testifiers are listening, just keep working with our office to connect the dots on this. We vote aye.
Maps.
I want to heard and appreciate your concerns. I also very much appreciate Commissioner Gonzalez's leadership when he stepped forward to offer to work with residents to develop a plan for neighbors to come together to purchase this property. I hope those conversations continue, and I hope those efforts succeed. I vote aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. And 86, please, second reading.
Authorize Portland Water Bureau Director to execute certain intergovernmental utility and cooperative improvement agreements with the Oregon Department of Transportation for projects that have potable water infrastructure services in construction areas.
Please call the roll.
Rubio.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Maps.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Back to item number 82, which is a report, please.
Accept the Portland Police Bureau report to City Council on the South Donald Terrace and
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Mayor. Thank you for having us and giving us time to present this report. I have a few opening remarks.
The neighbors will play well with one.
City Council Resolution 37-424. This partnership follows strict guidelines as an important component in regard to public safety in our city. As always, I believe it's important to acknowledge community concerns around PPB's interactions and relationships with other federal entities. I know historically this has been something we've addressed at City Council for many years. That's why it's important to reiterate today that PPB remains committed to transparency and accountability and adheres to these strict guidelines. This includes our work with federal agencies. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Sergeant Mark Friedman to present this year's report.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. Good morning, Mayor Wheeler. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Mark Friedman. I am a sergeant with the Police Bureau, where I'm currently assigned to supervise the officers and the professional staff assigned to the Criminal Intelligence Unit. City Council Resolution 37-424 requires the Police Bureau to report to the City Council by the end of January a summary of the frequency of which the FBI's special agent in charge requested the assignment of PPB CIU officers for an investigation, the number of cases that were referred to PPB by the FBI, and the number of cases that were referred to the FBI by the PPB, and then finally, the nature of the closed cases referred to the PPB by the FBI, which is to include the demographics of the persons involved in the disposition of those cases. The details our compliance with the requirement that members of CIU receive annual refresher training from the City Attorney's Office to ensure compliance with all state and federal laws. And you can see in our report today that annual training was completed just yesterday by the City Attorney's Office, coincidentally. And at that time, the City Attorney also advised us that there were no state or federal changes to the law that impact or preclude the ability of PPB members to work with members of the JTTF when requested. Moving forward, I will summarize the key information contained in the report. In 2022, the Portland JTTF referred a total of 10 cases to Portland Police Bureau CIU for review and investigative investigations. I will be able to provide some greater detail about 3 of the cases when I summarize the closed cases in a few moments. All of the referred cases follow the procedure outlined in our Directive 750, in which the special agent in charge of the FBI made a request to Chief Lavelle for investigative assistance of PPB CIU officers. And there were no other requests for assistance from the FBI JTTF to PPB that was referred to CIU in 2022. In 2022, CIU PPB referred 3 cases to the FBI for review and possible follow-up investigation. Just briefly, the nature of those cases included an individual making a threat of targeted violence, a shooting that resulted in several critical injuries and included the death of 1 individual, and the referral of a 2021 case that was a non-injury shooting case connected to a protest downtown. In these instances, the known demographics of the subjects collectively involved a total of 4 white male adults and 1 white female adult. Summarizing the three cases that I can talk about today that were referred by to the PPB by the FBI in 2022 that fit the described criteria. I'll start with case number 1, and this was a case where the FBI received a report of an individual residing in Portland who was alleged to be engaged in the manufacture of illegal firearm components. The request was made to Portland Police Bureau to assist in this investigation, and the involved individual was contacted and interviewed by both Portland Police Bureau members and FBI. Ultimately, based on the circumstances, this case was referred to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms for additional follow-up. That is a closed case in our system, and the individual involved was identified as a white male adult. The second case, the FBI received a report of an individual residing in Portland who was making targeted threats of violence via the internet to several federally elected officials here in Portland. The request was made by FBI to PPB to assist in this investigation, and officers from CIU, along with officers from agents from the FBI, went and contacted the individual who was involved. Based on the circumstances, the case was referred to Portland Police Bureau's Behavioral Health Unit for follow-up. That is a closed case, and the individual involved was a white female adult. Third case I'll talk about today is a case where the FBI received a report media to a local news station who subsequently, and we worked that case together, and despite our investigative efforts, the case ultimately lacked tangible leads and was closed. And in that instance, the demographics of the individual involved is unknown. The remainder of the referred cases, cases 4 through 10, are still open and actively being investigated. It's important to note that most of those cases occurred in the second half of 2022, which is part of the reason why they're still open. And since they remain in open status, I can't provide specific details. However, I do anticipate that I'll be able to summarize these cases for you when I deliver the 2024 report to council. Appreciate and thank you all for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions if you have them.
Very good. Thank you. Colleagues, any questions at this time? Do we have public testimony on this item?
We do.
Or why don't we go to public testimony?
First up, we have Jude Al-Ghazal Stone online.
Welcome, Jude.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, commissioners and mayor. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify about the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force today. My name is Jude Al-Ghazal Stone, and I'm here on behalf of the ACLU of Oregon and in coordination with several other organizations testifying today. We do appreciate the increased transparency we've seen in the last few years' JTTF reports, including more details about the content and demographics involved in the task force's cases. However, we're still troubled by the lack of clarity about how most cases mentioned in this year's report qualify as terrorism, and more generally, we have serious concerns about the transparency and oversight regarding the relationship between the FBI and PPB. Since the early days of the JTTF, Portlanders and city officials have had misgivings about the partnership. And Portland's JTTF began around 2000, and by 2005, the city of Portland withdrew from the task force because the mayor, former police chief Tom Potter, was denied the clearance required for proper oversight. Oregonians understand the importance of transparency and police oversight, which is why in the wake of Oregon law enforcement and federal agencies like the FBI, extensively surveilling and disrupting many civil rights and BIPOC-led organizations, our state legislature enacted ORS 181A 250. This statute prohibits Oregon law enforcement agencies from collecting information about any individuals or groups' political, religious, or social associations unless it's reasonably connected to criminal conduct. And importantly, the FBI is not subject to this state law, but the PPB is. And without transparent reporting on the collaboration of state and federal law enforcement, Portland citizens can't know if the PPB is violating our state laws regarding their civil rights. And when law enforcement agencies violate this law, Oregonians don't suffer the consequences equally. BIPOC communities, particularly Black communities, Muslims, Arab Americans, and people with names like mine have borne the brunt of local and federal witch hunts for terrorist activity. My grandmother is someone who many people would consider a model citizen. She's a retired librarian who is active in her church and local dance troupe. And yet since 9/11, she has been surveilled and questioned by federal law enforcement officers countless times simply because she's Arab. And people like her undergo unsubstantiated arrests, raids, and trauma at the hands of both the FBI and the PPB, which is why greater oversight of their collaboration is critical to ensure that Portland's civil rights are protected. And accordingly, the ACLU of Oregon urges the commission to, at a minimum, create a community-focused oversight structure of the PPB's annual reports and collaboration with the JTTF. However, the strongest way to protect our people's civil rights is to sever the formal relationship between the Portland Police Bureau and the FBI. Thank you for your time.
Next up, we have Marlene Wallingford online.
Welcome, Marlene. Marlene, can you unmute?
Sorry, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm Marlene Wallingford, and I'm a member of the Portland JACL Board, which is a nonprofit civil rights group, which was founded more than 95 years ago to help young Japanese Americans become more civically engaged. And our community is particularly sensitive to unwarranted surveillance because that is exactly what we encountered during the 30s and the 40s. And that is why one day after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, the FBI was able to sweep through the Japanese American community here in Portland. They searched homes and arrested a little over 100 community leaders. And so it's our obligation to guarantee that this does not happen to any other community. There was no evidence that our community was engaging in sabotage, but there was a suspicion that because of our race, we were predisposed to be loyal to to our ancestors' homeland. And as it turns out, despite the nation's fears, not one Japanese or Japanese American was ever found to be engaged in sabotage. The Portland Police has a history of being in and out of the Joint Terrorism Task Force. We had left the task force until the Pioneer Courthouse attempted bombing incident in 2010. The arrest and conviction of a young Muslim man was the culmination of a long-term undercover operation, which during he had been monitored closely for months. With the collaboration of an undercover officer, the bombing was planned during the Pioneer Courthouse Christmas tree lighting ceremony. The device was in fact inert, and the public was never in danger. In 2019, the Portland City Council voted to withdraw the 2 assigned officers from the task force and cooperate on a case-by-case basis. The Portland Police was required to provide this annual report describing its cooperation. So we had a chance to view the annual report for 2022, and as with previous year's reports, there's very little information and there's no way for the general public to know how the incidents or concerns came to the attention of the FBI or the Portland Police Bureau. And it's not clear how the actions described could be considered domestic or international terrorism. We have been told that by cooperating with the federal agency, the Portland Police can monitor their work. There's no way that our local police can have any control over FBI practices. It's time we divest our community from an agency that has such a clouded history of upholding our constitutionally protected rights. The FBI needs to reflect upon its culture of white supremacy and its bias against constitutionally protected protest. So thank you. We appreciate this time to be able to comment.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Brandon Mayfield.
Welcome, Brandon.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Brandon Mayfield. I'm here in my individual capacity and also as an advisory board member for Islamic Society of Greater Portland. I want to thank Mayor Wheeler and all of the esteemed commissioners here for giving me the opportunity to share with you, with some of my other colleagues, our concerns with the city's involvement with the JTTF. And the FBI, which is the lead agency for practically all national JTTFs, as you've heard, has a history of, well, it operates under a cloak of secrecy, so it's not transparent, and it has a history of targeting minorities, people of color, such as Marlene had just expressed with Japanese Americans during World War II, with labor organizers, leftists during the Cold War, and post 9/11 has heavily targeted Arabs and Muslims, including myself, which included illegal surveillance and a wrongful arrest in 2004. And as Marlene had just touched on, Mohammed Mahamoud, who was a young Somalian teenager who was actually being tracked and investigated while he was still in high school in Beaverton in 2010. And by the way, in both of those, we had Portland police officers, part of the JTTF, who were conducting surveillance about, including myself and Mohammed Mahamoud, our Muslim associations, which is contrary to the law that our ACLU member had just mentioned, which prohibits that kind of activity based on, your religious associations. For example, I myself have documentation and surveillance logs showing that PPB officers, prior to my arrest in 2004, were posted at the masjid that I frequented in Beaverton. And even though there's no evidence that I had, committed a crime or was about to commit a crime, and this kind of culture continues. So even just this last weekend, we learned, you might not have heard about it, but a hacker in Switzerland uncovered the U.S. government's secret terror, no-fly list, which we've now learned has 1.5 million entries, which are predominantly Muslim. So that culture still continues to this day. And for that reason, I would, at a minimum, encourage, as our other colleagues have expressed, strengthening our reporting requirements at a minimum. And I think more importantly, I think we should actually get and sever our ties with the JTTF completely, because I don't think it squares with ORS 181A-250. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
Next up, we have Dan Handelman.
Welcome, Dan.
Dan, can you hear us? Dan, you're muted.
It was my telephone is muted. Thank you. Good morning, Mayor Wheeler and Commissioners Mapps, Rubio, Ryan, and welcome to this issue, Commissioner Gonzalez. I'm Dan Handelman with Peace and Justice Works and its project group, Portland Cop Watch. Portland Cop Watch found the Joint Terrorism Task Force agreement between the FBI and Portland Police tucked away on the consent agenda back in November of 2000. For over 22 years, we've been organizing with others in the community to ensure that police don't violate the rights of people of color, labor organizers, environmental activists, civil rights activists, immigrants, Muslims, and others, or Oregon state law. In 2011, as you heard, after the Mohammed sting by the FBI, the PPB got back into the JTTF after 6 years out of it. We remember the years 2012 to 2015 when the PPB was sending reports to City Council, which basically said there was at least one case where we worked with the JTTF. The police said they did not want to give away the pace of their investigations and tip off the so-called bad guys. A ridiculous assertion. When Portland got out of the JTTF again in 2019, the council passed this resolution, as you heard, requiring these annual reports. In a few of them, the community was given at least some indication of why particular cases might have been considered terrorism or related to hate crimes, the required nexus for the PPB to work with the JTTF. This year's report states that there are 10 cases the FBI sent to the PPB, but only details 3 of them, saying number 4 through 10 are open investigations. One had to do with a person manufacturing gun parts, one making threats to community members through the media, and the only one which could perhaps be seen as terrorism was a threat against a federal elected official. However, it seems the FBI sent this to the PPB because they realized the person has mental health issues, so the case went to the behavioral health unit. 2 of the 3 are identified as white people, and the third was an unknown, of unknown racial origin. We appreciate that Bureau is still listing cases sent by the PPB to the FBI, even though the resolution does not call for that. Neither does it call for the demographics of such cases, but those are provided. The Bureau sent 3 cases to the FBI, one about a threat of targeted violence, one involving a shooting in which a person was killed and others injured, and one shooting at a protest in which nobody was hit. There's no indication of why the Portland police thought these might be terrorism cases. There were 5 people involved in these 3 cases, identified as 4 white men and 1 white female. Peace and Justice Works Important Cop Watch call upon the city to treat the relationship with the FBI as something that will occur when a true case arises where lives are endangered due to politically motivated violence, but to stop deputizing 2 officers for the occasional team-ups, which seem to lead nowhere. Failing that, we urge council to fix the resolution that requires the details and demographics of Portland to FBI cases be included, and to require a clear explanation of how those cases relate to the limited scope of work the resolution requires. So hope the resolution will include a guarantee of a contemporaneous oral public testimony at the hearings on the reports, as we had to be creative for the first 2 years until the council changed its policy to allow testimony on our reports. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance, and that does not just include protection against people who would attack people living in the United States. It also means we must be sure our government is not violating its own principles in order to do so. I just want to hope that you all saw also there was testimony from Jewish Voice for Peace Portland, who couldn't appear at council today. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Debbie Iona.
Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Debbie Iona, representing the League of Women Voters of Portland. The League first commented on the city's involvement with the Joint Terrorism Task Force in 2001, and we have shared our views on this issue with City Council throughout the years. We appreciate the annual reports and the opportunity to provide oral testimony again this year. You may wonder why the League of Women Voters has an interest in the Joint Terrorism Task Force. Our interest in this issue stems from the League's mission to promote active and informed participation in government. We believe democracy is strengthened when members of the public vote, express their views before a decision-making body, or join in a demonstration. In Oregon, we are fortunate that state law protects participation in First Amendment activities unless there are reasonable grounds to suspect criminal conduct. On the other hand, FBI actions in Oregon and around the country raise concern those protections may be ignored when Portland police work with federal agents. Those concerns can and do have a chilling effect on public involvement, activism, and lawful dissent. In the interest of making Portland a city where community members are free to act without fear, the League encourages the city to end its case-by-case participation with the FBI, and in the future, work with them only when necessary to pursue legitimate criminal actions. If council chooses to maintain the status quo, we suggest adding information to the annual report, spelling out how many Bureau officers were temporarily assigned to the closed cases described in the report, and how many hours they spent pursuing them. Thank you for considering our concerns and our suggestions for improvements to the annual report. Thanks.
Thanks, Debbie.
That completes testimony, Mayor.
All right, very good. Thank you. Colleagues, any further discussion on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
Commissioner Mapps moves. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Gonzalez. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Rubio.
I want to thank Chief Lavelle and Sergeant Friedman for this presentation and for all those who have testified and emailed. And I want to first acknowledge that there are real concerns in history behind why there was a push to disengage with the JTTF. I worked for Mayor Tom Potter during this time, and there were very real concerns and examples by community of racial and religious targeting, and it's important to not forget this and also the learnings that came from this. Also important to acknowledge is that since that time, especially in the light of recent events and the rise in white nationalism and related violence, that this partnership has evolved to become more transparent and to partner on specific kinds of work with defined parameters and oversight in hopes of ensuring safety for all members of the public. So there are complexities and dimensions to this partnership. I want to thank Chief Lavelle for his commitment to navigating these complexities and working to achieve these goals. I also want to commend the organizations and people who are asking the important questions and keeping us informed and keeping us accountable. maintaining public trust and maintaining transparency. Some of the suggestions for more robust reporting are good ones. And my hope moving forward is that there will be an established regular practice where PPB and community groups have a chance to come together in advance to engage about what they'd like to see in future reports in order to share the learnings and the challenges that are faced. So thanks again to everyone who presented and the testimony today. I vote aye to accept the report.
Ryan.
Thank you, Chief Lavelle and Mark Friedman, for being here this morning, and also for the testimony we received. This is a really complex conversation. I think the testimony reminded us why historically it is. I didn't even remember myself. It's not as compelling as the testimony I heard from our people who testified today, especially dating back to World War II concerns and after 9/11 and those who are Muslim. But after 9/11, there was a lot of people that were put on that no-fly, or at least the warning. I remember every time I traveled, my partner at the time was frustrated because my bags are always pulled. I had no idea why. Maybe it was because I was protesting against the war in Iraq. I have no idea. But it just was an occurrence that it took place for like a couple of years. So civil liberties are always a concern. I also know that we're dealing with terrorism and domestic terrorism particularly, like never before. And so we need the flow of intelligence. And so it helps when we have the transparency of those reports. I was happy to hear that those testifying see that we're moving in the right direction with that transparency. My point is, I think this needs to be a constant dialogue. We need intelligence. We need to be at the table to receive it. And our job as public servants, of course, is to keep the general public as safe as possible. And so with that nuance and with the pledge that we will continue to have these transparent dialogues that include people from the community that are concerned, I'm comfortable today receiving this report. And again, I appreciate the move towards more transparency as we have these dialogues. I vote aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mapp.
I'd like to thank Chief Lavelle and Sergeant Friedman for today's presentation, and I also appreciate the public testimony that we heard today. We should be transparent, colleagues. There is some bad news in this report. For example, I'm disappointed to learn of the manufacture of illegal weapons in our community. And I'm saddened to learn of threats of violence against elected officials and the media. At the same time, there is some good news in this report. For example, in this report, I see no evidence that the city of Portland or the federal government violated any laws, civil rights, or Portland values as they followed up on gun crimes and threats of violence here in Portland. In fact, this report illustrates why it is important for the city of Portland and our federal partners to work together to keep our community safe, which raises a larger policy question. In 2019, this council directed the Portland Police Bureau to withdraw from the Joint Terrorism Task Force. 4 years later, it is not obvious how that decision makes Portland safer, which is why I believe this year, this council should revisit and reevaluate our decision to halt participation in the Joint Terrorism Task Force. Now, until we can have that larger discussion today, I am happy to vote aye on the question of whether or not we should accept this report. Thank you.
Wheeler.
So looking at this historically, first of all, we all know that terrorism can take many different shapes and create substantial harms to the community. And we've seen some specific examples in this report. I also want to acknowledge the concerns that were voiced in public testimony today. I appreciate those concerns. And I also want to acknowledge that the format that we are currently using today was the result of a compromise. I was one of 2 commissioners who voted against withdrawing from the Joint Terrorism Task Force because on balance, I felt as police commissioner and as mayor, it was more important for me to know and understand the potential risks to people living in this community, particularly as I am the police commissioner. That said, a majority of the council was opposed to continuing that relationship, and I have no disrespect for their decisions at that time, but this compromise creates an opportunity for us. I appreciate the report, as well as the transparency around the Portland Police Bureau's work in this area. I want to particularly acknowledge Chief Lavelle and Sergeant Friedman for their hard work on this. And I want to thank you generally for the good work you're doing to try and improve policing in our community and helping to keep our community safe during difficult circumstances. Thanks to you both and the rest of the PPB. I vote aye. The report is accepted, and we're adjourned.